Hi, I'm Ron. Welcome to Countersteer, a podcast where we try to give bite-sized chunks of automotive history. Today it'll be a shorter episode, but we'll dive into the story of a man who shaped the American sports car market, Max Hoffman. So, born in 1904 in Austria, Hoffman was a visionary in the automotive industry. In fact, you could probably call him like the grandfather of the imported sports car in America. So let's start from the beginning. Let's start from the beginning. Hoffman's journey is fascinating. He moved to Paris in the late 1930s, and then he later switched to New York after World War II broke out. Initially, he started a successful jewelry business, which made him lots of money and gave him enough capital to dive into his true passion, cars. So in 1947, Hoffman founded the Hoffman Motor Car Company. Legend has it that his showroom opened with one single French Delahaye four-passenger coupe. Talk about like starting small, right? Delahaye like right off the start, kind of crazy. But Hoffman had big plans, right? So by 1949, he was importing like a who's who of European cars, right? Jaguar, Rolls-Royce, Bentley, and some little stuff like Austin, Rover, Cooper, blah, blah, right? Okay, but Hoffman's like real genius was in spotting potential where like others didn't see it, right? It's like take Volkswagen, for example. The Beetle, although massively popular in Europe, right, was actually struggling to find interest in the US until Hoffman took a chance on it, right? And then he became the Eastern U.S. distributor, and then he arranged for the car's first public showing in America, right? Which, and then as like everybody knows, went on to be massively popular in the U.S., right? And then, probably the most significant, then there's Porsche. In 1950, Hoffman met Ferdinand Porsche, right, the actual founder, at the Paris Motor Show, and on the spot, he imported 15 Porsches. He even raced him himself, right? And like, he was actually pretty good gaining headlines like, in quotes, M. Hoffman victorious in 1 hour race driving Glockler Porsche, which was pretty cool. And so talk about like hands-on marketing, right? Like racing the cars you're selling. I think it goes back to like that old adage of like race on Sunday, buy on Monday. Pretty cool. And so Hoffman's influence was like beyond just importing cars though, right? He also had a knack for knowing what the American like market wanted, often before the manufacturers did, right? We're still like pretty small in Europe who he was importing the cars from, and he was actually pretty instrumental in creating the Mercedes-Benz 300 SL sports car, right? Which it was the episode before this. I'd go give it a listen. I think it's pretty good, I might be a little biased though. And he actually even played a role in designing the Porsche emblem, right? And so according to legend being the actual Porsche website, Hoffman felt Porsche needed an emblem, right, representing like the brand after he was done racing to like help them gain some traction and some like brand identity. So he met with Ferry Porsche over lunch in New York, and so he actually sketched out the now iconic emblem on a napkin, albeit like quite a simplified version, but it was a start. And it first started appearing on steering wheel hubs in 1953. If you Google it, you can find like the actual napkin. It's pretty cool, And so by 1959, Hoffman's business had actually grown so much, right? He had to reorganize, forming Hoffman Motors to succeed the business of the 7 corporations, right? He'd organized since 1947. And so going into the numbers, he had over 475 sub-distributors and dealers in over 370 cities across the U.S. Basically, he was living life like really well. And so in the mid-1960s, Hoffman sold most of his distributors to focus on BMW, actually. And so this is, of course, leaving his mark everywhere he goes. He actually started influencing the design of the BMW 2002, and then he finally sold his interest to BMW and retired in 1975. And I believe he was actually quite instrumental in the 507, which was, I think, a failure at the time, but now it's looked up upon of like such a great car. And so his impact in the American car market can't really be overstated, right? He single-handedly introduced and brought these like polarizing European brands into the US, which really helped shape the taste of automotive enthusiasts here in America for generations to come, right? So like anytime you see anytime you see a classic Porsche or BMW on the street, I think I would remember Max Hoffman, right? The other day I saw a Porsche logo, and so when writing this episode, of course, I learned a lot about Max Hoffman. So it was like, oh my god, Max Hoffman did this. It was pretty cool. And so, yeah, he is basically the reason many found their way to American roads, those European, like, small little cars. And so that wraps up another episode of Countersteer. Hopefully you learned something new about the man behind, this massive European car invasion basically in America, right? Until next time, keep your eyes on the road for some American history, for some automotive history in America. I'm not sure what the next episode will be. Yeah, I'll catch you later.